Running these models are very scary because whenever you look at number of ICU unit beds relative to the population, the worst has not even started.
Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking to JP James. JP is a serial entrepreneur, an author, a Georgia Tech lecturer, chairman, board member, president of TIE Atlanta, and not to mention a husband and dad. Maybe the only thing greater than this list is the amount of expertise and knowledge JP has when it comes to agent-based modeling and the spread of COVID-19. In fact, so much knowledge that we've decided to take his interview and separate it into two parts. So today in part one, he's going to unpack everything he knows about agent-based modeling, and we're going to take a deep dive into the cerebral world. Hold on to your face mask, folks. It's about to get real.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. My parents are immigrants from Southwest India. I'm a serial entrepreneur from the age of 12. When I was in Pittsburgh, I actually taught computer classes at our local library and made a little bit of money on the side. And ever since then, I've always wondered, how can you create scalable businesses? The company I run now is called High Financial Systems. It's a fintech company or a technology company in the financial space. I'm also a very active investor. I buy and sell companies. I invest in different technology companies. Somehow, magically, I have a lot of time to spend with my kids. Thankfully, two of them, my two elder ones, play golf with me. In the times of high stress, similar to most of us are having right now, you gotta be spending time with family. And those are the things that guide me with all the businesses and investments that I do. So agent-based modeling is best explained to what it's not. All of us have looked at a basic distribution curve. So you've got most of the people in the middle, bunch of people, less people on the edges, and the least amount at the very, very edges, right? That's a basic standard distribution model. The biggest difference between a statistical model and an agent-based model is that statistics is typically taken from a top-down view. You want to get a large sample size, you want to look at what the behavior of the aggregated population is. Agent-based modeling is the opposite. It goes from the individual level, understands all the information about the individual, and then builds a model from the ground up. If you're trying to do it from a research standpoint, you're going to look at data points. A lot of the stuff that we even look at is where your geolocation is, who are your family members, what type of credit and purchasing decisions have you made over a period of time, where do you normally travel? Normally you would just think top down, if you do this, then you get this result, right? Statistically. It's a lot harder to say, what is a person with this income level, living in this location, in proximity to that city going to do, let alone all the other data sets? These attributes, and thankfully we're a very data-centric company, so on most people that we model, we get a minimum of 17,000 different attributes for a single individual. So where it gets really exciting is, based upon all your attributes, all your data, and your neural network model, how are you going to behave with my neural network model? The subset of artificial intelligence is a thing called machine learning. Within machine learning, a deep neural network is something that allows you to have a huge amount of data, a deep level of data on a specific type of problem you're trying to solve. And in this case, what is the model behavior of you as an individual? So I take this model of who you are, it's almost like an artificial brain, and then I simulate the behavior of you with all these other artificial brains and all these other neural networks. For the last 20 plus years, myself and one of my best friends, who's also my business partner, who's actually my he was my best man at my wedding, Sandeep, he got his graduate degree at Georgia Tech in bioengineering. He was able to take this type of technology and apply it to detecting lesions under the skin. It was so effective that the average doctor had a 40% accuracy rate, and our predictive modeling back then was over 95% accurate. I actually got to meet Dr. Ray Shinazi as well, who cured hepatitis C and leads the virology lab at Emory. And really think about the modeling of the behavior of the individual in relationship to the virus. Okay, so a virus is not by itself an agent. Why? So bacteria can actually survive independently of a host. A human is a host for the virus. So we look at the human as an agent, what their behavior is going to be, and then we figure out, based upon that, the sub-agent being the virus, and what is that going to do. So When the initial reports were coming out of China, we were trying to figure out what the behavior of the individual was going to be over there. We started looking at very specific metrics. Pattern movements of individuals within similar zip codes within China and their behavior. The other thing we were looking at was the relationship between small areas of China and the spread of the virus based upon transportation and logistics. Then we could start modeling high concentration areas of the entire world and see how the spread of the disease and the acceleration of the infection and the acceleration of death rate was going to be within those markets. So we took the same simulation of data and we run those simulations in the US economy. When we looked at the simulation, it was very, very morbid. We look at it as the entire United States being hit by a hurricane for an indefinite time frame. Think about a hurricane that was to go 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 2 months. A hurricane that would hit the United States for 2 months where you couldn't do anything. You can't get out of your home. You're trying to go to safe places. You're shutting down everything. There are no businesses that are open. That has a little bit better similarity from where we are right now. Remember, we have to err on the side of worst case scenario, not best case scenario. We had already looked at tens of thousands of people potentially dying. We were able to simulate where the concentration of hundreds of thousands of people would get infected. I actually had people on my team yell. We almost got into a yelling match because they were like, "This is not possible. This is not possible." It is impossible for a human to look at this data way before anything could possibly happen and then go out of your way and spend all this money. We obviously all saw that the Chinese government had shut down whole cities. And in the United States, if you talk to 99 out of 100 people said, there's no way that's gonna happen. But I don't look at it if it's gonna happen or not gonna happen. I just can simulate, this is what happened here, what happens if it happens here? And then take precautionary measures, assuming that's going to be the worst case in this country. Relatively speaking, the United States is in a much better situation than most of Earth. And the worst has not even started. Running these models are very scary because whenever you look at, like I said, number of ICU unit beds in other economies relative to the population and the other attributes such as income, access to the different medicines, forget testing. Everybody was panicking in the United States because we didn't have tests. If you think we didn't have tests in the United States, it pales into comparison compared to major parts of the earth that are being hit and are about to get hit from that standpoint. So we then build a relational model between the agent simulation, what we expect to happen there, what we expect the government to do, and run those simulations with some probabilities of how different governments are going to behave as well, and the decisions that individuals within power are going to make based upon other decisions that other agents, other central bankers have made specifically, other governments have made specifically, and run those simulations across the world. We already know across the entire world where overload of the system is going to be. Over a month ago, we ran these simulations from a city by city standpoint, and it gets very scary because what are you going to do? It's obvious that we haven't taken enough measures. The reason is because we're human. We're not robots. You're not able to take these measures. The reason why bullet shell sales are through the roof and those are emptying and toilet paper is empty is not because anybody's rational. That's the great thing about agent-based modeling. I don't need to rationally model. Statistical models force rationalization because it creates a curve. It takes out anomalies and outliers within the system. That's great, but it's not very practical science. What's practical science is understanding the behavior of an individual and its extremes.